First thing on our agenda are the minutes from the last meeting. Is there any changes or corrections or omissions that anyone caught? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Are you here for a specific?
Questions and answers, if anything comes up on.
Item C.
Yeah. So do we want to move item C up?
That is up to you.
Why don't
I'm
we?
Nori, I'm enjoying the sunshine.
Okay. So our first new item of business is the stairs on the dike going down to the sailboat moorings. Pam, you know, we've been kicking this can down the road for at least 15 years. Since we redid the dinghies and all of that. And when we looked at doing it before, the engineers found it real sticky. And pretty soon we were looking at $12,000 to $15,000 in engineering just to design what the stairs were gonna be. And then we couldn't find anybody who was interested in fabricating them because of a liability issue of doing that. And then it kind of has just been shelved, but every year the Sailboat Mooring Association people are rightly so complaining about what they're going through in doing it. So I got looking at, there's gotta be an easy prefabricated solution, and there is. Fire escape stairs. And they make them, and they're approved for indoors, like in warehouses or in your industrial plant or something like that, which is more than strong enough for what we're gonna need to go from the street height down to somewhere closer to the water than being billy goats to try and go up and down that. And I think when you priced it, you came up with, it was under $7,000.
Yeah, it's like 6,200 to 6,500 a piece.
Yeah. No, we'd have
And that's just the stairs. That's not including any installation
Yeah.
or concrete, you know.
we'd have to design it, or I think Mike could probably do it, but we'd need to design an anchoring point, take off on the top, and a landing for it on the bottom. And then we'd have to decide if it would be something that we'd make them removable for ice, if that's an issue, you know, but at least try one and see how if it's viable.
So just a little bit of background. Obviously, right now, sailboat moors some of them have dinghies, right? And there's specific locations on the dike road that they basically drag their dinghy up onto the riprap, and then they climb up the riprap to the toll bridge road. And like Pat said, since I've been here, a lot of them have clamored for some easier access, you know, instead of crawling over the riprap. A lot of them are up there in years, and like I said, don't want to be billy goats. So, like Pat said, this project was put together and bid out back in 2011, from what I could find in the files. And I don't know if the bids ever came back and it didn't go anywhere because of the exorbitant amount of money.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just kind of just dropped.
Yep.
So obviously Pat, you know, had done some research and found these prefabricated staircases, and we do have, as I put in the issue sheet, you know, our current balance at the end of last year for mooring in the Parkland Trust Fund is $87,000 and some change, 87,833 to be exact. So there are funds available to pursue something like this. Obviously not on a grand scale. I mean, we can, at the park board's purview, we can do one or two and try, see if they work. You know, the thing is I was talking to David Gray. There does need to be railings on both sides. So the picture that I have included in your packet, that wouldn't be allowed per you know, ADA standards. Second thing is, you know, we would have to apply for a permit, waterway permit from the DNR in order to do this work. So that would kind of be the first hurdle, because it's underneath yeah, I call them anything underneath the ordinary high water mark needs a permit.
No, I was wondering if we could take it on to the boat launch project.
Separate
Can-
projects,
okay.
yep, separate projects, yep. So obviously a couple different hurdles, and then the last thing to think about is, you know, and I was thinking about this, talking with David, is if you have a rail on each side of the stairs, a person coming from the top of the dike road would have to walk down, and then do they come down to the bottom, and they turn back up to get their dinghy, because their dinghy is about, 5 to 10 feet off the water edge. Otherwise, you have people trying to walk down, hop over the railing
Right.
to get to their dinghy
Or go under it.
or go under it. So I don't know if there's an option where, I was talking to David Gray, our building inspector, where some of the prefabricated staircases have, the first 8 feet has railing, and then you come to a platform where it's open on both sides, and then you come down another 6 feet with railing on each side. He said that would be sufficient. So that's another option too,
Yeah.
to give them a space in the middle where they could, because I just don't want, I envision these people walking down and they're like trying to hop over or underneath the railing.
Yeah, and going down with coolers and stuff and complaining about the darn railings on both sides.
Yeah. So just a couple things to think about.
You can't win.
I mean, if it's something that the park board wants to pursue, I think the first hurdle would be to apply for the permit and get that over with, right? Get that approval. And then once we do that, we can determine if we want to continue, how many, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts.
Mike, if I remember, there's 2 or 3, maybe it was in this areas that have the cable that they hook their dinghy on, hang their dinghy on, basically, depending on the water level.
Yeah.
Are there 3? How spread out is that? I don't really remember. I've walked past a million times. My point is, I love the idea of maybe starting with one, because of the issues you say. Maybe we're making them walk all the way down, coming back up, all that stuff. Is there one central spot that would do a lot of good?
Not really.
Okay.
They are spread out, there's.
What we originally had talked is having at least 3. One way out,
Okay.
one in the middle, and then one relatively closer.
Yeah.
And somebody's gonna have to, be further away from the stairway than
Right.
somebody else, but so what?
Yeah. It's probably, the dinghies are probably spread out anywhere from, I'm trying to think, 300 to 400 feet along
Oh,
that.
okay.
I mean, a football field length. So,
Is that the way they would have to be? Is there any possibility that they could get closer to a stairway?
I think we could look at
Yeah.
somehow trying to condense them somehow, some way, because it's not, so we have 50 moors out there, and there's probably, I'm just spitballing here, probably 2/3 of them have a dinghy, the other third don't have one, or they just bring it on top of their car and they park along First Street, and they take it down to the beach and they get access that way. So it's not like every single one of them has a dinghy on the dike road,
Okay.
but it gives you an idea.
So when you apply for the permit, do you need to indicate the number of stairs we're looking at in that permit? Or could
Yeah.
we say up to 3 or?
The more specific, the better.
Up to 5?
You think?
We can always put in 3, but then,
Right.
or do you think we'd hit a number that they'd say, no, that's too many in? For only 15 dinghies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. It all depends on who's reviewing the
I
application.
know, I don't know anybody there anymore.
Yeah. I'll say this. The 2 projects, the boat launch and the boardwalk approvals have been great to work with, and they have been very understanding and have worked with us on those permits. So, I think if you request 5, it's a good start, and if they balk at it or express concerns, we can always come back and ask for maybe 1 or 2 less type of thing. So maybe shoot for the stars first. If they go for it, then, adjust later on.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering with the boardwalk, would that be a place to access the dinghies eventually?
So I think the intention of the boardwalk is for people there's gonna be some fishing piers on it, right? So to fish, and then the idea is for transient docking, right? People coming in and out for a couple hours at a time, not for anything that'd be permanent.
Okay.
So I don't think that would, because a lot of times people will come on the weekends, use their mooring, and then they'll pull their dinghy up for the week, and we don't want dinghies tying up that boardwalk for an
Yeah.
extended period
Mhm.
of time, you know?
What?
Yeah. So do you want a formal motion to have you start the permitting process
And then specify the number of stairs.
with 5 or something?
I'll move to request that moving forward with up to 5
Stairway access?
stairs,
Okay.
sets of stairs.
I'll second.
Any further discussion required?
My question is, do we know the angle of the stairs? If that's anywhere close to the angle of the rocks we have? Like in the picture here?
Yeah.
It looks great, but I think I think it's more steep than that from when I walk out there.
So what we'll have to do is, based on, like I said, the slope of the prefabricated staircase will determine what heights the anchors will be set at. So what I envision is, like we do for scoreboards or a lot of, any time you're doing some type of anchor in the ground, you know, you auger down, you pour your cylinder sleeve, and then what would happen is the staircase would be mounted right on top of that,
Okay.
concrete
Okay.
piling.
So that can,
So we can
so the
adjust.
height of, between the two, we can dictate what the pitch is gonna be
Oh,
to accommodate.
because we do the landing too, is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Right,
Oh, I see.
Right.
So even if it's, I see what you're saying.
yep.
Okay.
And then, and your notion of the platform and break in between would even be helpful in accomplishing that.
Yeah. So let's just say, you know, the pitch of the staircase, if you have to go higher on the uphill side, you just have your cylinder sleeve stick out of the ground a foot or two to accommodate that slope of that staircase, and then you land it, you know.
Okay.
It's doable.
Okay, you can adjust basically.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, question on the motion that I just seconded,
Yeah.
not question myself. So we'll apply for that permit. Will you come back, Mike, with, hey, we do have
Yep.
some space to do this, and then we'll roll up our sleeves and figure out quantity and exactly how it looks and
Yes.
where it lands. Okay,
Yeah, this will tell us if we can at least do it.
good starting point. Okay.
Because what we would do is, I'll talk to my staff, my foreman. It may be one of those projects where we look to bid out the installation of them. I mean, we purchase the stairwells, but we bid out, because you have to have an arm to reach down there and maybe move some of the riprap around in order to get an auger to do it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, first hurdle is approval, and then we'll come back and
Okay.
discuss details.
Any further questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. I think it'd be a nice thing to have accomplished down there if we can get it done, and we can maybe even look at one of those stairways for here on Third Street Hill.
Yeah, because do you recall getting approval from the DNR for that project back in 2011? Or was it more, I read something that Tom's Woolley said that we had to apply, but I don't know if
Yeah,
it.
we didn't.
I didn't see a permit
No,
anywhere.
we
Okay.
didn't get one.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Next item on our agenda is enabling, the park board's issues.
Yeah. So what's happening, and Paul, you can maybe speak to this, the council, city administrator, and the mayor are looking at, they just want each board and committee to review their roles and responsibilities, the ordinance that govern them, and see if there's any changes that need to be made based upon, you know, the decisions that you're making. And B, you know, I know Paul and I have discussed in the past, any way to consolidate maybe another committee to reduce the number, because we're finding it harder and harder to find people to be on boards and commissions, and we have a lot of them in the city, right? So whether that's like park board combining with urban forestry, if that makes sense, you know, parks and public works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, our ordinance, the park board is in the ordinance, and basically it kind of just lists out what your roles and responsibilities are. Study, recommend operation, maintenance of park systems. Study and recommend relative to sanitary conditions, bodies of water, which are under the jurisdiction of the city. Recommend relative boating, swimming, recreational activities utilizing bodies of water under jurisdiction. Determine present and future needs of the parks and make recommendations. Make recommendations in matter of parkland acquisition and disposal, and submit an annual budget to the finance committee. So, Paul, do you want to maybe piggyback on any of that, maybe just kind of describe what the council is looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just looking for a general discussion to see, is this working for us? Do you guys want to change that? Is there overlap with other committees? Is there a more efficient way to do government if we pool some of this stuff together? I mean, that's my sense of it, so, yeah.
Yeah, like urban forestry, it should be in part of parks.
That's what I was gonna say. I
That it
think,
isn't was surprising.
yeah, I think, I don't know their charter, I haven't read their mission, but I think if we could reach out to urban forestry and say, it seems like it fits a lot of the mission of parks, so, from what I understand anyway, so.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I thought is, I think you guys correct me if I'm wrong about this, it says each person is appointed for a 5-year term. That just seems like a super long term to me. And I'm wondering if that's what's discouraging people from holding the park board. I mean, if you think about it, city council's 2-year terms. The mayors, we just changed from 2 years to 3
3,
years.
yeah.
That's the longest elected official is a 3-year term. And park board's 5. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a huge commitment. I wonder if we revisited that and said, what if this was a 2-year term or something to give people a chance to get
Yeah.
on the park board, to try it? If they liked it, they
Yep.
could be like, I want to
You
renew.
can always
it.
say, I'd like to be on again.
Yeah, they could always
Yeah.
renew or something, but I think that 5 years is a big ask for anybody to be on the city commission, especially if they don't have any experience, right, and they're trying to. So I just think we should look at the term itself.
It's a good suggestion.
I don't disagree with that. I think frankly, it takes, if you're not really connected to what's going on with the parks, it takes a pretty good year
Yep.
of being on the board to feel like you can make much of a contribution.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think 2 years is long enough. So.
Do you have a sense of like,
Well, I mean, I was thinking about, I don't know the Board of Appeals, I was on it for so long, I never knew what term it was. But it seems to me they were 3-year terms.
Okay.
yeah,
So I don't know if that's more common.
yeah.
I don't know if that would be a deterrent. I mean, this seems like a board that people would want to be on.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
5
just
years.
feel like it's more doable if you ask the average person, could you make a 3-year commitment? I just
Other-
feel like that'd be more doable.
Other advisory boards that I've been on were 3-year
Okay,
typically.
yeah.
Paul, have you reached out to, you mentioned forestry? I know
Well-
there's the bike and.
Yeah.
Or I'm not even sure the name of that.
The Bike
group.
and Ped Committee, yeah.
Like, again, we all kind of have a lot in common.
Yep.
The outdoors, our
Yep.
open area,
Yep.
um,
I think Bike and Ped could be another, I'm not sure if that fits better under parks or if that fits better under public works.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
they're building, a trail system
Mm-hmm.
that you want to make sure works with your road system. Do you know what I mean?
okay, yeah, that does make
Yeah.
sense.
I don't know, but I think, honestly, I think it could go either, but I might lean a little bit toward public works unless you
Mhm.
guys felt it was closer to parks, but.
No, I think you're right on that, especially with all the planning and everything else that they're doing
Yep,
to go with it.
yeah.
What's the term on planning commission? What's the length of the term for that one? Or do we
I
know
don't-
what the other,
I think it's a 3-year.
Yeah.
I believe it's a 3-year.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
maybe we could check and see
Yeah.
what the other
Okay,
Mhm.
commissions are and
okay,
do some realignment there
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
to line up.
okay.
But Mike, are you also asking if this list of A through F seems,
Yeah, just
that-
reading.
is that valid to what we're doing? or
Yeah,
am I
and
missing something?
just reading through it, I think, I don't think there's a lot of mission creep with park board. So I think what's listed in the ordinance is what the park board has done in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with what the ordinance states as far as what the responsibilities are. Unless you want to add anything, I don't think you would want to subtract anything.
Yeah. I think to me, it looks good. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah.
I don't know what
It
we
looks
would
good.
add to it,
It's pretty.
especially with all the associations that
Mhm.
run their own rec
Right.
programs and the like.
Yeah. I wonder if we added a line about urban forestry. I mean, I guess we have to have that conversation with urban forestry first, but I
Yeah.
think if you specifically put, G or something,
Yep.
and put whatever that method was, kind of added that into it, if you were gonna
Mhm.
combine them,
Okay.
I think you would have to add that maybe.
Yeah.
Yep, so I do have, there is an urban forestry meeting scheduled this month. What I'm going to do is the same thing that I've done here, is basically, they're in the ordinance as well, as far as what their roles and responsibilities are. I'll
Mhm.
put that on there for discussion. And what I will approach the topic of consolidating in the future, with the park board and get their feelings on if that would be a good thing moving forward for the city.
Mhm.
How big is urban forestry? How many folks?
There's
on it?
7 members on it.
Okay.
One hasn't been active for quite some time. So,
It might be
6.
good because we've had, I know in the last, I've been on this 4 years and we've had trouble sometimes getting quorum.
Yeah,
And I think it'd be helpful to have more people, from urban forestry, so you wouldn't have that issue probably.
and plus, the only urban forest, to the large extent that they have is our parks, besides the boulevards and the like.
Right.
But I mean, in terms of the largest hunk of land that they can have a direct impact on,
Yeah. Yeah.
is ours.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think, so we'll broach that topic with them and get their initial reactions, but I'll put this agenda item on next month's agenda for follow-up.
Sure.
And maybe if we can start maybe having some of those discussions, if they're amenable to it.
Sounds good.
Maybe it's Pat just mentioned about where the work is done. If it's in the parks and it's on the boulevards, is there kind of a subset between the public works and the park board? Is it
Mm-hmm.
2 entities or 2 separate pieces maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet they haven't been involved with the tree plantings that are going in a new boat launch,
No.
right?
No.
So they're after the fact, where that would put them up front in help piloting the course of what we're doing and where we're going. I think it would also help in an outreach to schools somehow. That's the one thing I keep rattling in my head. When Mr. Jordan, I think was his name, was a science teacher at St. Pat's for years, their biotic indexing that they would do they did it in the parks, they would do it in different places around, but there was a great connection at that time between those kids and the lakefront park, because that's where they were down studying all the critters and that during that time. But to have a better connection to the schools, that we just don't have. And I think there's a great deal of overlap there that could be beneficial
Yeah.
on all sides. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, and I will say that the Hudson Urban Forestry Board is a very active board, and they have done a lot of initiative as far as outreach, education, being in the schools. The founding members have been on that board for quite some time. Ken Holman was the president for the longest time, but anyways, they do a great job as far as advocating for the trees in urban forest. And, the one thing that I just want to make sure is to not lose that part of that board, because it's such an important
it's
aspect
Yeah.
of what they're trying to accomplish. So, yeah, I mean, it's something to think about, and like I said, I can reach out to them and bring it back here, and if both groups, I think that's a good idea, then yeah, let's go for it. If there's some apprehension, then maybe we need to just talk through it some more, and
Sure.
maybe we stay separate boards, but at least have those conversations.
Sure.
If all else fails, maybe we have one of them on our board,
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
representation,
Right.
like boosters,
Yeah, that'd be great.
and the like.
So, okay. I will, so I guess in the meantime, do you want me to look into the 3-year term?
Yes,
Yeah, I think that, that's something I guess we would have to pass some kind of recommendation here, I think, first,
Mhm.
and then ask council to, they'd have to redo the ordinance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So they'd have to redo the ordinance, so. Do we want to ask forestry first, and then after that, talk about the terms? Because if they
It'd be nice to
joined
say to
it-
them that you're not having to come on and be here for 5, you only have to be here for 3.
Oh, do it first, yeah.
You know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
So maybe we should do a motion tonight for the 3-year, and then council can kick it around.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd do that motion. I'd move to, create 3-year terms on the park board.
I'll second.
Are you seconding?
But a discussion point would be, I don't know how that works with the grandfathering, the people who, I think the people already have their 5-year term, you know? I don't know exactly when you guys are all up. I think they would finish out their.
They'd finish whatever their term is.
I think
and
they'd
then-
finish whatever their term is, and anybody who's new then would be like a 3-year
3.
person.
Mhm.
So, I don't know if you want me to motion that part of it, but that'd be my understanding of it, I guess. 'Cause I don't wanna short somebody if they're like, hey, I'm already involved,
Yeah.
you know, I don't wanna short that, so.
We're not kicking anybody off.
Any further discussion? Or any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. That'll be a good one, I think, for getting people to be able to be on it. Next, we have our Hudson
Yeah.
boosters.
So I'll kind of give some background information on this item, and then Mr. O'Brien is here representing Hudson Boosters, newly elected president, correct?
Oh, you're old now.
A year old now already. Fantastic. No, Dave's been a great contact at the Hudson Boosters for both Deb and I, especially with me coming on board a couple years ago. So very, very helpful. Glad to have him here. So basically, discussion and possible action to approve Hudson Boosters as primary scheduler for Grandview Burton Park athletic fields. So this has come about, and mainly out of a necessity this year, especially with Ms. Andrews being gone, and I know that Hudson Boosters has had a relationship with the Parks Department in the city of Hudson for a long time. But as far as like scheduling fields, so on and so forth, they have been assisting Deb with that task. And basically, what we want to discuss tonight is does the park board, are you open? Would you support them being kind of the primary scheduler for the fields? And the reason why we're bringing it forward, and I put in the issue sheet, is Hudson Boosters is a great program. They serve a lot of youth, whether it's softball, baseball, football. They have acted as the city's recreation department for a very long time, right? And because of that, about, I would say 80+% of the users of our athletic facilities are direct correlation with the Hudson Boosters. And so, they have helped us with the schedules every year, because there's a lot of teams, and we don't have the staff to support their daily needs. As far as this team needs to cancel, this game got rained out, we need to switch this field. It's just, we don't have the capacity. We don't have anything online for software is concerned. I did check into that. It's about $8,000 a year to bring all those scheduling online. And it's something that, I didn't have in my budget, so I couldn't make it happen this year. So maybe that's something to look towards in the future and budget for in the future as we are now able to accept credit cards, hopefully soon, credit card payments online, finally, to pay for some of these things, breaking permits, we can include park reservations, so on and so forth. So, having said that, talking with Dave, and this is what we want to bring in front of Park Board tonight is, are you comfortable with having them be the primary scheduler of the fields, knowing that, they would still follow the athletic field user fees document that we put together about a year ago now? And so there would still be priorities. What I want to be cognizant of and careful of and put in an agreement is, I don't want to have Hudson Boosters, and I've talked to Dave about this before the meeting, is I don't want to have them all of a sudden become the monopoly of the facility, and then it's a bad public perception, Boosters is the only people up there and they're not letting anybody else play up there. That's not what this is intended to be. It's a partnership, it's a collaboration. I know Dave has spoken with the school district already. Last year with other outfits, adult softball, sandpiper, that type of stuff. So, I mean, I think for the most part, they worked well with one another. They're communicating their needs. It would still be a master calendar that we typically put together. It would be accessible and viewable on our website. Trying to keep as much transparency as possible and not have that perception that Boosters is taking everything over, because that's not what the intent is here. So, Dave, do you want anything to add to that?
No, I can speak to it.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Dave O'Brien from the Hudson Boosters, President of Hudson Boosters. Like Mike said, we started this process probably 2013 or 2014. Around that time, the girls traveling softball was looking for a better place to play. We were actually playing outside the city limits, so we were looking at Grandview, but at that time, there was a couple of adult leagues and a church league and everything else up there. And we could tell there was room and availability, but really not the staff power to actively manage that on a daily basis. So at that time, I was working with the softball, and I came up with a low-tech, high-effective solution. The cost was zero, because it was a Google Docs shared document that looked like a calendar that everybody could access on your phone, and you could do direct coordination with whoever was there, and really that worked out really super well. And so the process of going forward with this is really just to document that process going forward. And because there are other users, really clearly define roles and responsibilities, who's responsible for what the guidelines are, so that we're not making any decisions that we shouldn't be. And really, if there is something in between, we just point it to the city to adjudicate it and let them make the decision and move on. We're really just looking to help supply the resources to actively manage it so that there can be maximum users up there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I did, last week, I did put together just a brief agreement, and Dave got his comments back to me earlier this week, so I didn't include it in the packet, but, it's not in your packet, Pat, so don't look for it. So it's basically, it would be an annual agreement. It describes what premises that would fall under this agreement, which would be Grandview Park. All right, we have the 5 fields up there right now, and then Burton Park, which includes the 2 fields. It spells out the terms, the scheduling, how schedulings would be prioritized, and basically it's taking that verbiage from the athletic field user fee guide and just basically saying, adult softball still has first priority, school district, and then it's the Hudson Boosters, and it's, fall in line after that. As far as payment is concerned, the city would still collect those monies that we've collected in the past for the field use. So basically, at the end of every month, I would, based on the calendar that has been upkept, I would go through every organization. You used it, X amount of hours, so on and so forth. Each organization would still get invoiced from the city for usage, so nothing changes there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's like Dave said, it's a way for them to support and provide some manpower to help manage this facility, because the city doesn't have it at this time. And until we get some more people on board, scheduling can be a full-time job beginning now until August. I mean, it's a daily thing.
And without somebody doing it, it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
It would be a bad dream.
yeah. And it changes daily. I mean,
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
There'd be guns pulled, knives, people going wild.
Feedback factors there, we would have contact, make sure every team had a contact person, so a lot of times coaches would just direct coordinate with each other. And then they would just kind of, hey, we switch this, but we talked, Bill and Jim and I talked, and we're good. But making sure that information is out there viewable. Because if you're on your iPhone at a meeting and you got thunderstorms coming in, you got to do some changes, let them do direct coordination.
Yeah.
And that schedule would be on the city website still, is that what you're saying?
yeah, we would make available to view on the city website.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Total
the school
transparency.
district, Dave, sorry, you had talked to, you said you had.
That was a separate issue, because those were really just the Grandview, but the high school softball uses field 5.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they get priority with the current use, so they were looking to make sure that their requests, I think, were in, to make sure that they request for that.
Okay.
The high schools, because they use field 5 and one, depending on how many JV teams they have, 1 or 2
Yeah.
out of the quad.
Okay.
So you want a formal motion?
Go ahead.
Oh, two quick. So the city would still net the same income from those fields?
Correct.
Okay. And then, just to be, you guys use about 80%. So just to be kind of not devil's advocate, but let's say I was a lower priority, priority 4 or 5. Because I don't know why. Why would someone not want the boosters to do? I mean, are there negatives that we're not seeing? If I was a organized softball team that didn't have high priorities, is there any negative that this will bring about that isn't currently there? I mean, I'm just trying to think of the other way of.
I mean,
I just
possibly
think-
didn't understand the priority
Yeah.
allocations. I don't
But you're sharing the same priorities we came up with.
know. We're
So,
following the
okay.
same guidelines, so there's no, and that's what we use for documents, to make sure that we can point to a document and say, this is on the city, that's what we're following.
yeah, so it's not your rules, it's our, yeah,
If
ours.
there's a disagreement, then I think, then the point is like, okay, we'll just send it to Parks and Rec, let them adjudicate it, tell us what the answer is, and then we'll follow.
Okay,
So we really don't want to be a person that makes city decisions. It's not our
Right.
role.
And it's not their place, and I wouldn't want you to be put in that
No,
Right.
position.
We don't want to be placed in that position.
right, and that's why, when you
Yes.
said, we didn't wanna look like we're handing it off to someone.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's the perception. I
It
think
is.
we just
Yeah.
need to make sure, but if everything's clear and it's out there, everybody can see it,
Right.
I think that'll take care of a lot of that issue.
The timeline for scheduling, does it follow what's in the packet we have then with March 1st? Or what would,
That-
submitting requests, or
Yeah,
how
that
would
would
the
be-
timeline work?
Well, Mark,
Yeah.
today's the day.
Today's the day, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So if we don't do it, Mike has to do it.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I wanted to have this conversation tonight, just so that you have a chance to weigh in, whether you think it's a good idea or not, just so that I know, Boosters knows moving forward, what we're gonna do. So, if you don't accept or formally approve this tonight, then yes, I would start putting together, because I have received some field requests already.
What I could do is forward you, like, the links for maybe 17 or 18 or 19, whatever calendars we used back then.
Yeah.
And you could just kind of share with everybody, just kind of thumb through it and see what it was, or what it looked like.
Is it, are we recommending it to city council, or just something we do tonight and then we have the authority to just do it?
That one.
Yeah,
The second one?
yeah, we just need a formal motion then.
Okay. I would move to have the Hudson Boosters handle the scheduling for both Grandview and Burton Park fields, and that any conflicts would be brought to the city for adjudication, was your word?
I'll second that.
Any further questions or discussions necessary?
So when we make this shift, if we move forward with this shift, will you put something on the website, or what's out there now as to?
Yep. So Dave did send over kind of a draft PDF fillable form that is more detailed, a little more detailed than what we have for our field usage request. You can split it up by hour, team, so on and so forth. So yes, that would be put online as a field request form. And then basically, as part of that, on the bottom, it would be submit applications or email applications to, or requests to,
Yeah, I think because there's already probably a pile of requests in,
right.
we probably have to start with what we've got, or what you
Yep.
already received.
Yep.
And maybe what I had said, you might be the document maybe next year, or maybe mid-season or something. So
Yeah.
it's finished, because at this point, it's gonna start melting in people are gonna be
Wanting to.
already asking which field do I have.
Yeah.
So we might have to just get by with what we've got so far this year. I was
Yep.
looking for, just refining the process going forward.
Sure.
And questions or contact for is that going to be the city, or will the boosters be listed as the contact for?
questions regarding availability of fields.
And the process, or will they?
Anything for scheduling would be,
So I think we had set up, it's everything, all the requests go through the city, and so you determine their availability, their qualifications, insurance, whatever you need.
Yep.
And then after that point, it goes to us, or the scheduler.
So we would assign the priority category basically, and then,
Us.
but they wanted the individual fields, they would go to boosters. Once they got the priority rating, they would, if they wanted a field, they would go through
Once it's
booster.
been validated by the city.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then it'd be forwarded to the scheduler.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, yeah,
everybody clear on,
yeah.
Cheryl called the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. That'll be good.
yeah. Thank you,
Thank you,
Dave.
Dave,
Yeah,
for
that really will.
helping out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah.
There is, and we just don't have
don't
the
have it.
capacity right now.
We don't have it.
This spring is just, yeah, it's gonna be very, very busy. So, for myself, taking on 2 different jobs, so, yeah. Thank you.
Old business.
Let me find
Do you
my-
have anything?
Nope.
Okay. Lakefront Park boat rent update?
Yep, so Common Council, we received 4 bids for the reconstruction of the boat ramp. Lowest bid was skid steer guy in the amount of 1.2 million. Engineer's estimate was approximately 1.5, so about $300,000 underneath engineer's estimate. So Common Council approved the low bid at the recent Common Council meeting. I am putting together the contract documents to be sent off to them for them to review and sign and send back to us. But the project is a go.
Good.
And so, general start date, probably early April, depending upon water level. We do have language in the contracts that give specific goals or milestones to reach so that the boat launch is open prior to July 4th weekend. Phase 1 or stage 1 is gonna be the southern half, which includes kind of where the boat launch is now. So that'll be stage 1, and then stage 2 is everything to the north of there. So, yeah, that's kind of the update on that. I will be contacting Save a Tree to remove a couple of the larger cottonwoods that have, not the big one next to the volleyball court, to be clear, but the ones that are further to the south that have been, have some storm damage, so on and so forth, that need to be removed. And then I also will be contacting a different company to spade some of the smaller stock that's down there and move that to the north end where we lost a lot of the trees this last summer or last fall due to the storm. So that work will begin probably early April as soon as the ground thaws and get those trees moved before the aggressive growing season. So good news, it was approved by council and it's all systems go for that project.
That'd be great.
Yep. So, like I said, estimated timeline, April, May, June, 3 months for the first phase. The second phase is a little larger, so you have July, August, September, and October to complete it. So completion deadline is October 31st.
Will the boardwalk be part of it?
Boardwalk is a completely separate project.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that underneath project updates, but I'll give you just an
Okay.
update on that. So we did receive $391,000 in grant money from the Wisconsin DNR Knoll Stewardship Grant for that project. Estimated project cost is 1.2 million for that project as well. So I am currently getting an LOE, letter of engagement, from an engineering firm to proceed with design and engineering services for that, which basically put the plans and specifications together, which we will use those documents to go out for bid. So I'm hoping to get somebody on board and get those plans and specifications done in the month of March, get them approved at first council meeting in April, approved plan specification, authorized after bid, go out for bid. April, probably early May, open up bids, mid-May, approve them June, with a start of construction season, July, August, September, October, and maybe, try to finish that in the latter half of the summer and fall. So that's kind of the timeline on that. 2 separate projects, kind of independent of each other, but they will work together, obviously, as it's in the same location. So that's kind of the update on that one.
Good.
Yep.
Any other things for future agenda items or to be looked at or talked about? Paul, you had an item.
I did?
Didn't you have the name?
the name of
The
the.
Cratley Lane,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. We're all getting old.
Yeah, interest to rename the Cratley Fields up in North Hudson. I forget the person offhand, but,
John Henry,
okay, so he was a longtime
Hudson Booster
Hudson
president.
Booster, yeah, okay.
Vice-
Okay, very cool. So I'd love to look at that. I think it's a really interesting idea, so we can talk about that maybe next
Yep.
meeting. Yep.
Anybody else have anything for future agendas?
When we visited Grandview Park or the new shelter, we had talked about doing kind of a grand opening or a welcome
Mhm.
event.
Mhm.
Can we talk about that at a future
Mhm.
meeting?
Yeah.
Grandview grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
You can get a photo op or something. Paul can be front and center. Can we get it done before April?
How many, it's only been
Sorry.
tagged once? Any more problems with tagging?
Yes. Yeah, we've had 3 incidences of vandalism up at that facility already.
Really?
Yeah, the mutants and inbreds are.
Yeah, so we, apparently, the individual that has been doing it has been caught.
Ooh, good.
So, yes, very disheartening though.
Yeah.
Frustrating.
Yep. But we'll have to, yeah, it's last time they did it on more of the porous rock, so we're gonna have to professionally have it cleaned and get it off of there. Nothing that we can do in-house, unfortunately.
Let's do that.
Yep. That's all I got.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.